star and all-time points leader for the Toronto Raptors. Known as the best closer in the NBA, Demar DeRozan is one of basketball's greatest of all time.
Yes. He is also a man who suffers from depression, and since sharing that publicly, he's broken the stigma on speaking out and becoming a mental health advocate. Now, more than ever, you're seeing all of this in his brand new memoir entitled Above the Noise, My Story of Chasing Calm. We are so thrilled to have him here on the show, the one, the only, Demar DeRozan.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
I feel like saying, welcome back.
Yeah.
Welcome back. I do want to go back in time a little bit, and this is going back to a morning back in the 2018.
Yeah.
It was 3 o'clock in the morning, and you tweeted, quote, "This depression get the best of me." Now, that single act literally changed everything that morning, and it started to spark so many conversations about mental health, specifically in sports. But you say it was actually kind of an unlikely person, like Jim Carrey, another fabulous, Canadian, who led you to realize that you might be facing depression. So can you share, what is that backstory?
Yeah, that night, it was just an impulsive reaction. I was up late. I took my emotions to Twitter, not knowing what type of reaction I'd get the next day. And come to find out, me sitting here with you guys is a reason behind a lot of that tweet, because, I start to dig deep and try to be an inspiration bigger than, not just myself, but, for everybody. As far as Jim Carrey, I remember just watching all his interviews and how in-depth he used to talk about depression and ways he suffered from so many different type of emotions. And, this was a guy that we watched just to, find laughter in. And to see he was dealing with so much stuff, it made me identify with a lot of stuff after that. And I just wanted to keep the conversation going.
It's so important, yeah, and you're so vulnerable and open in this book. And you share that you grew up in Compton, and you were only 5 years old the first time you attended a funeral. And then after that time, you've since attended many, many funerals for friends and family members, often as a result of gun violence. But you transcended this world, and you had this incredible talent and this incredible drive. And I'm just curious, thinking back, like, what kinds of changes do you want to see happen in a place like Compton?
One, voicing what we all go through. I think growing up, we was taught to hold so much in, and with that, it builds up so much internal aggression, lack of confidence, and you kind of live with this false insecurity that leads you down the wrong paths a lot of times. And for me, just breaking that stigma, making it feel okay to be vulnerable, express what it is that we're going through, because my whole childhood was, I remember days coming in the house, I didn't want to talk or express nothing that I went through. I could have had the worst day at school. I could have gotten in a fight, lost a fight, and I'm gonna come home and hide it because I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to express it. So, we carry so much pain that we hold in to later down the line, we explode in ways that, lead us to the wrong direction. So for me, just more so just finding help, seeking help, and even talking about it is a start.
It's big. You share a lot in the story of when you were young and how your dad was actually really, really hard on you. For example, when he thought you were bad, he would actually lock you in a dark closet. And he also pushed you in basketball really, really hard. Some of your training sessions together, a lot of them would end in tears. And yet you say you have such a special relationship with your dad. So when we think of those sort of extreme parenting tactics, why do you think you believe they worked with you? Yeah,
it worked because, as I got older, and these was conversations I was able to have with my dad before he passed, of why he pushed me so hard. And, the way he came up not having much, the struggles that he went through, he knew that life wasn't going to be easy once you walked outside that door. Nobody was going to hold your hand. Nobody was going to be soft with you. So you had to be ready enough to endure what the world had to, in front of you. And he prepared that for me the best way possible. It wasn't just basketball. It was more so a life thing in the ways he was pushing me.
Well, maybe it prepared you for a lot of things to come, because over the 9 seasons that you played with the Toronto Raptors, well, you helped build them into a championship team. We all remember those beautiful days. But then you write about the fact that you really, really were left feeling betrayed. And you broke down when the team traded you, and you found out that you were, heading out into what ended up, of course, leaving behind what their next season would be, which would be a trophy-winning season. I would love to know about the mental impact that a trade has on a professional athlete at your caliber.
Yeah, it's tough because, this was a place that, I was 19 when I got drafted here. I was a kid. I was young. I was naive to the world, and, I grew here, gained so much success here to, in my mind, this was a place, I wanted to be forever. But it didn't work out that way, and sometimes life throws obstacles at you. And when I got traded, it was a new shift for me because I didn't know nothing else. I got drafted here thinking this would be one place, but sometimes basketball, business of basketball don't work that way. So end up ultimately getting traded, and it was tough. It was tough more so from the emotional connection and impact I had within not just the city, the country in a whole. And it was tough at first, but it was a learning lesson for me that I learned to accept, more so than anything, and which in turns always lead me back here, a place where it all started that always be near and dear to my heart.
It's true. Since leaving the Raptors, you've had many memorable games right here in Toronto, but it was actually your daughter who made headlines after one particular game, and we actually even talked about it on the show afterwards. Take a look at this.
In any particular game, if he steps the wrong way or
official visit to Florida State, asked him, what did you guys do? He said, underrated passer.
They played terribly because they succumbed to the power of a 9-year-old girl.
Okay, so your daughter was screaming during that to distract the other team. So what did you think of that?
It's crazy. It wasn't until I think late in the third quarter or maybe the fourth quarter, OG Anunoby, we was running back down the court, and he said, "Man, tell your daughter to leave me alone." And literally, we was running back down court, and I was confused on not knowing what he was talking about. So the next time they went to the free throw line, they had missed 2 free throws, and that was my first time hearing my daughter scream. So I was like, oh, well, it must be working. So by the time the game ended, she came and gave me a hug, everything. But it wasn't until I got in the locker room where I realized she was basically viral over the whole entire world, and it was extremely cool moment to share with my daughter, because she really wanted to come to that game, and beforehand I kept telling her no. I was saying no. You got school. You got to go to school. But it was definitely a cool moment that I'm glad I got to share with my daughter.
And you put it in the book, and we're so glad that you did. Demar, what a pleasure and honor to have you here with us.
Thank you.
Demar's memoir, Above the Noise, is available right now. Studio audience, it is your lucky day. You're going home with your copy today.
Hey, you, come a bit closer. We've got so many more must-see interviews, spicy debates, lifestyle tips, and pop culture moments. So subscribe to our channel by tapping the logo below and don't miss out.